What I'm about to show you is gonna blow your mind, and I'm not talking about the size of my lens. I'm talking about these. If this wasn't a photography video, some of you might think that these came out of the bum cheeks of the guy who painted the Scream, while others would argue that they're not worthy landscape photographs at all. For what exactly are we looking at? Where's the rule of thirds, and why does it feel like I'm high right now? You could even say it busts the myth, and my lens, that landscape photography needs to be taken somewhere jaw-dropping like the streets of Lake Como or the mountain ranges of Takayama, Japan. And although places like these are a photographer's wet dream, they can often demotivate us from using what we have at our disposal and going out to shoot in the first place. But today, I'm here to tell you that there is no better place in the world than where you are right now to shoot landscapes, when I show you how to take any boring photograph and transform it into an art piece that will never have you running out of ideas again. Now, with all due respect, this tree has probably housed a lot of insects and birds throughout its long life, but in terms of a photograph like this one, it deserves to be chopped down. There's no story attached to it, it has no supporting subject, and I don't know about you, but it just doesn't get my 24mm lens zooming at all, if you know what I mean. But do you know what does? This bad boy right here. Since in this video we're trying to evoke emotion and eeriness that's gonna bring our landscapes to life, we're gonna need a little bit more than stillness. We're gonna need that haze, we're gonna need that motion, we're gonna need some blur, if you will. But to create that motion, we're gonna wanna set our shutter speeds anywhere from half a second to a second, depending on the light available. And the secret is, just before you hear the click, you quickly pan your camera in the direction your landscape tells you to. And in this case, that was upwards, kind of like how my lens is standing right now just looking at this photo, if you know what I mean. And to accentuate that motion of the lines, I thought that it would be best to shoot this scene as a portrait as opposed to a landscape. That's just something to consider, because if you were to take it landscape, I think it would interrupt that vertical motion we want our eyes to be led in, and that would kind of reduce the impact of what we're trying to get out of our photo, which is to bring boring scenes to life. In our next photograph though, the line of our hill already helps us a ton with deciding that a landscape photograph is a better choice here to exaggerate that kind of side-to-side direction of our lines. But not only that, we can also use other elements of our environment to help guide our shot choice, which the wind was nice enough to do for us that day. Now, I don't actually know what coordinates the wind was blowing from that day, but with reference to the photo, there was a northwesterly wind, meaning that from where I was positioned, all I had to do was set my shutter to 0.4 of a second and make sure to smoothly pan my camera up, kind of like following the flow of the grass, which I think turned out quite nicely here. Like, the big idea here is to just recognize these patterns and flows of nature and bring them to life in our photographs, which should tell you that I am a virgin. But in this photograph, I would have liked to have flicked my wrist a tad faster to get more of a hazy motion going like we did in the previous one, but I think we made the shot interesting enough with what we did, which I'm pretty happy about, especially after I realized that my bro actually made the cut in this scene. If you didn't notice that little shadow figure already, and to me that added a perfect amount of eeriness and interest to the shot. It actually reminds me of this zombie scene from the movie 28 Inches Later, and this scene, man, it touches my lens in all the right places. Now, to add on to what we've learned so far, apart from the fact that I've never felt the touch of a woman, another way to bring our very boring shots to life is actually through color change. So here we have another very boring scene, but as we can see, there is an analogous color scheme at play here that blends our greens and yellows like super harmoniously, and especially in conjunction with the flow of the wind that was blowing the grass to the right, it was almost as if the wind was blowing the colors as well, which honestly puts my shutter into burst mode. Now, I would have really loved it if the lines didn't fight against our motion of the color change in the wind here, but at that point, I'm just playing God and being really nitpicky. I think we got what we deserved, and it turned out really nice. Now, because we're leaving our shutters open for so long, it is super common for our shots to get completely and utterly blown out to a degree that is unsalvageable in post edits. That's why I would recommend taking the same shot at least 3 times with different shutter speeds and exposures, just in case if you were to only take one, it comes out looking a bit like this. Now, something I would strongly recommend is getting your hands on an ND filter, and when I say get your hands on one, I don't mean stealing it. This one's the 82mm variable density 2 filter from Hoya that slips right onto my Sigma art lens very smoothly and without friction, might I add, and it allows me to reduce light by 1.5 to 9 stops, which has saved my butt cheeks countless times in this video if you haven't already noticed. Now, it's time to address the elephant in the room, which is editing, because to me, no amount of presets or editing will save your little bum cheeks when the photo looks forced and everything just seems a little bit out of place. Remember, just because they're boring shots, it doesn't mean it will will automatically fit this style. However, I would be laughing if I didn't admit that a good edit will take your photo from a 9 out of 10 to a 10 out of 10. From a burger with fries to a Happy Meal with sides. This one actually came out of the camera like this, which I didn't find crazy at all because after all, I am him. But what I'm trying to say is that there isn't a magical preset that you can just drop on all these pics that'll get your lens wet. However, I know that's not the answer you were looking for, so here's the one you actually want to hear. Things you want to instantly be looking out for are reducing that exposure meter straight away and dialing down those highlights, because when you open up the photograph, you're instantly going to see that it's most of the time it's going to be blown out and it's going to be very hazy. So you're going to be trying to do the best you can to bring all that light down, and that's going to bring back all the color back into the image. Everything else you can sort of play around with, like some settings will suit one type of photograph and other settings will suit another type of photograph. But scrolling down to effects, you definitely want to be reducing some of that haze, just because we already have so much haze like naturally that we created with our camera motion. You'll then want to be bumping up that texture to give it that kind of paintbrush like effect, to emphasize those strokes that quite frankly make me want to stroke something else. And to give it that extra dreamy flashback type of look, pull the clarity back a little, somewhere between -10 to -20. That'll get your lens tickling really nicely. Those settings alone usually wet the lens, but they're only guidelines that I want you to use. Don't be tied down to them. But ultimately, I just wanted to end on an important note that I just didn't pull these photographs out of my bum cheeks one day. The real reason this video exists at all is because I saw an image that I loved out of a photography book, and I just wanted to try and replicate it with what I had access to in my area. Like, is there something wrong and plagiaristic about that? I don't know. For example, the Batman that came out in 2022 took a lot of inspiration from a film called Seven, and before that I had no idea Seven even existed, which not only makes me uncultured, but made me think that Batman was a lot more unique than it actually was, as I'm sure many other crime thriller novels and films inspired Spacey when making Seven as well. Because without inspiration, how are we meant to build on great ideas and adapt them to our own? And I think the idea is just to understand what you like and not shy away from what resonates with you, because in turn, when you take inspiration from a mix of those different things, I think that's what makes your work uniquely yours. And if that gets you excited to grab your camera and go out and shoot wild landscape pics that 99% of those people weren't paying attention to beforehand, then I see no reason why you can't call those photographs your own. Anyways, thanks for watching this video. If you made it till the end, more content is on the way, so stay tuned for that. Get out of my frame and get shooting, kiddos.